Hello everyone and welcome to Supertech Presents Business Leadership Awards 2012. It's absolutely fantastic to have all of you here. It's great to see the very cream of India Inc. right here with us, and all of you who are here with us today. It gives us great pleasure to welcome you. Over the years, we have worked very hard at making these the most credible business awards in the country, and that has been helped largely by the jury process. The top people get together and they help to select the people whom we honor this particular evening. So before we start, we just want to take you through the jury process for the Business Leadership Awards.
For over 3 months, NDTV Profit collaborated on painstaking research by Deloitte and a special jury. Now, please meet our all-star panel of judges. They're 8 of India's biggest thinkers and leaders, but what they're really respected for is their integrity. They're overworked, but they gave us their support, energy and time. These are your 8 judges. Naina Lal Kidwai, Country Head, HSBC India and Director, HSBC Asia Pacific.
It's an award which is very important, even more important in times such as this, where we are beginning to worry about industry and how India looks in terms of its growth story.
Kalpana Morparia, CEO, JP Morgan India.
There is a very healthy debate. There's a lot of background work done. So I think it's a phenomenal event in terms of recognizing industry stalwarts.
Shanti Ekambaram, President, Wholesale Banking, Kotak Mahindra Bank Limited.
I like the way that we go into an in-depth analysis on the various nominees, their strengths, their weaknesses, and in addition to just hard numbers, we take calls based on many factors.
Tarun Das, former Chief Mentor, CII.
These companies who have been selected for awards are really the best companies and command respect of society. So it's very good that we're doing this.
T.N. Nainu, Chairman, Business Standard.
There aren't that many companies that are doing well in many sectors. We've skipped 1 or 2, but there have also been some great performance in difficult times. So you get the good and the bad.
Dorab Supariwala, Editorial Advisor, NDTV. Anindo Chakravarti, Managing Editor, NDTV Profit. Dr. Pranoy Roy, Executive Co-Chairperson, NDTV Limited. The winners tonight are their choice, and that in itself is an honor worth treasuring.
Before we actually get to the awards and all the winners, can I just invite Pranoy to come up and say a few words?
Thank you all very, very much for coming. I'm deeply grateful. I know a lot of you have come from Bombay or Mumbai, and I think Dorab still calls it Bombay, insists. But thank you very, very much. Particularly coming to a media company's award function. This is seen by many to be an era of scams and scandals. We don't see it that way. We see it as an era of a cleansing process, that India is going to come out of this better, stronger, and a prouder country and a more efficient country. And we need to go through this process to make it a corruption-free country. And while there's a lot wrong with the media, this is one area I must say I'm extremely proud of all my colleagues, both in NDTV and in other news channels. We will try and correct the negative trends that are also happening, but in the cleansing process, I think we're playing a very important role. Like I think as part of democracy for the first 40 years, when there was no really private news in India, there was a huge gap between our political leaders and the voters. You see a political leader twice in 5 years. Once when he was asking for your votes, and the second time after he was coming back to ask to be re-elected. Now, everywhere she or he moves, there's a mic under their nose, and I welcome that. I think it's bridged the gap between the voter and the politician, more information. But I'm particularly pleased also tonight to have an old friend, a person I've admired tremendously over many decades, more decades than we'd like to admit to. But I think most of you will agree with me that Montek Ahluwalia is the finest mind in the government of any section of the government. And it's wonderful, Montek, that you've come, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say. But there is one grouse I have against you. For years I've asked you just to do one small thing, and you've just not done it. I've asked you to close down the Planning Commission. It's another era. What are we doing with it? So I'm going to stop asking you that now. I'm going to ask you just a slight, lesser favor. Change the name. Change its focus. Call it the Development Commission or the Removing of Distortions in Our Markets Commission. But Planning Commission, I know the Bongs started it, like Shukamoy and the rest, but I think we need a Sardar to change it and to end it. But thank you very much for coming. So this evening is dedicated to the cleansing process. You'll find one common theme among all our winners. It's an evening of, for those in industry who we are proud of because of their integrity. It's an evening dedicated to the fight against corruption and a fight against the planning process. Two dedications. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's time now to begin with the awards presentation. And we're starting this evening with a very, very special award, the Transformation Leader of the Year. She's someone who's been named as India's most powerful woman in business. She has not only steered her company through very, very tough times, but has also managed to transform the financial landscape of the country, ensuring that retail banking grows and grows. She's really a role model for young working women, because not only does she manage assets worth $93 billion, but she also maintains a perfect work-life balance. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time now to begin the first award of the evening. Let's see the Transformation Leader of the Year. You've transformed ICICI, you've transformed banking. We now want you to give tips to our policymakers on how to transform India.
Well, in my view, transformation is not about taking one big step or one giant step. I think transformation is about taking hundreds of those steps that make one big change. So, you need to realize where you are today as a leader, either of a company or the country, and to have a vision of where you want to be, and then back that up with a lot of initiatives, implement it with a lot of focus and determination to get to that. So that's what we essentially did in ICICI. But I think as far as the country is concerned, clearly we have a lot of steps to take if we want to get to our full potential. The steps have to be a mix of the macro, big policy changes, but I think backed a lot by actions here and now. We need actions to get our projects working. We need actions to get the investment drive back into the country. We need actions where we can create capacity and fight inflation. And we need actions where we can make our youth trained, educated, and employable.
Dr. Roy.
Montek actually says he wants to be a journalist this evening and ask a few questions. He's wanting to do that all his life, actually.
Dr. Ahlawarian.
Thanks, Chanda. This is really nice because very often I'm asked questions, so it's quite a unique privilege to be actually asking the question. You know, what I'd like to ask you is that, you know, you're the leading private sector bank in India. Do you think that we're getting enough competitive processes between the public and the private sector in banking? And do you get a sense that the public sector is, as it were, following the sort of innovative things that you're doing in the private sector? Or do they see their work as being quite different from yours?
No, I think I have a lot of admiration for the public sector banking in India as well. You know, given the kind of challenges that they started with, and given the fact that there were on one hand the foreign banks and on the other hand the private sector banks that started afresh, really without any issues of legacy, and could create so much innovation in the banking sector, I think the public sector has responded to that challenge very, very admirably. And today, they compete with us in every manner.
Would you like to ask Dr. Ahluwalia a question as well? Since he's used to answering tough questions.
Well, I can only say that if we have to really take our growth from the current levels to first say the 6.5% that is the target, and then to 9% that is our potential, what are the few actual real steps that we need to take?
Well, that's a good question, actually, and I hope I can give an equally good answer. But I think, as you yourself said, the government is in complete agreement with you that the most important thing to do at the moment is to show that projects that are stuck can move. The instrumentality that we have chosen is to create this new Cabinet Committee on Infrastructure. You know, I think part of the problem is that projects have got stuck because a number of regulatory clearances are now subjected to so much public scrutiny, and there's a hesitation on the part of the bureaucratic system to respond, particularly since many of these projects are private sector projects. I mean, this is the consequence of PPP, because almost half the new generation projects are private sector projects. So when you're trying to do something to move those projects forward, it's seen very often as you're doing something to help someone in the private sector, and there's a reluctance. I mean, the only way of solving this problem is to put it at the political level, where I believe that something like the Cabinet Committee can take a holistic view. And I think they've done that. Several environmental issues have been resolved. Several projects have moved forward. And my hope is that, let's say in the next 5 to 6 weeks, you will in fact be able to say that there are a large number of projects whose problems have been resolved. And certainly I think the fuel supply problem, particularly coal, which is holding up a lot of power projects, I think that will be resolved in the next 2 weeks or so. And I think if that happens, then exactly what you wanted to see, which is the beginning of an upsurge, will in fact take place.
2 weeks, we're going to hold you up for that one, Dr. Ahluwalia.
But I must say that I think if that happens, as I said, that could release cash flows, that could bring confidence, and that could trigger the next investment drive. And I think that's the growth driver of India that is not working today. So I think that can really take our country forward. I must also add that today there is a very good understanding of what needs to be done. So I think there the credit really goes, that there is a very clear understanding, whether at the bureaucratic level or at the political level, about what needs to be done. The only issue is that we need to really back it up with action. And if you're saying that, you know, we should see action in a few weeks, I think I can say, not just on behalf of the banking industry, but I can probably say this on behalf of all the industry captains that are sitting here, that we'll all be with you to work towards it.
Good.
All right, that's wonderful. One quick question before we let you go. We believe you're a Bollywood buff. So tell us how you managed to catch the latest movie and still manage such a tough job.
Well, I think I managed to catch the latest movie, which is, you know, at the last show in the night on a Friday evening or a Saturday evening, you know, which is when I can afford to see movies. But yes, I must tell you that I see most of the movies that are released. Yes.
And many, many thanks for being here, because I think in the next 2 hours you'll be on a flight to Canada for your board meeting. So it's really kind of you to make time for this. Thank you so much and many congratulations.
Thank you.
May I now invite Mr. Prithviraj Bagrecha, the Managing Director at Rodeo Drive Luxury Products, Bangalore, to join us to present the next award. And let's take a look at the nominees for the aviation sector.
Business leader in aviation, Indigo, Jet Airways India Limited, SpiceJet Limited.
And the winner in this category is Indigo. May I please invite Mr. Aditya Ghosh, the president of Indigo, to please come up on stage and accept the award.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here. In an environment where most businesses are finding, in most industries actually, tough to survive, tough to operate, there are a select few which are not only surviving, but which are actually flourishing. These businesses are run by leaders who have upped the standard of the game and transformed the businesses they run and also the industries that they operate in. These are business visionaries. May I please call on stage Mr. N. Chandrasekharan, CEO at Tata Consultancy Services, to accept the award. Congratulations. Before I get into the Q&A, I've got a small factoid here, which I think most of you will find very interesting. Chandra took over as the CEO of TCS in October 2009. Since October 2009, and we are getting into stock market returns here, the BSE IT index, since that time till now, is up 46%. The benchmark BSE Sensex index is up 11%. The TCS stock is up 150%. That's point number one. And at one point in 2012, the TCS market capitalization was essentially greater than the next three top IT companies put together. That's Infosys, Wipro, and HCL Tech. Chandra, we could have called you the greatest wealth creator of 2012. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How do you do it?
I think we have just kept to the basics. I fundamentally believe that growth mindset is very critical. We came up with a message that growth is the source of energy, and everyone has to believe in growth. So the management team, we are about the top 40 people. We fundamentally believe that there are opportunities if we decide to learn to listen to the market. So we believe that as long as we are consistent with customers, consistent in tracking what's going on, we can find opportunities. And I think we still believe that there are plenty of opportunities.
Dr. Roy? Dr. Ahluwalia.
Well, first of all, congratulations. It's difficult to ask a question when you've got a company that's successful. But let me ask a question about the industry. Looking ahead, I mean, do you see internationally that the IT sector is bound to slow down because its growth has been so rapid? But what would you say in the next 5 years is a reasonable growth rate for the Indian IT exports?
I think if you look at the technology sector, there are 2 or 3 points I would like to highlight. Technology is fundamental today in everything. There is more technology in a car, more technology every day in a plane, more technology in a consumer product, more technology in you, more technology in me. And that's the first thing we have to recognize. The second thing is, we used to believe that technology is all about enterprises, whereas now technology is getting into consumers. I think we are transforming from an industrial age to an information age to a knowledge age. From there, we're moving on to consumer age. Every consumer will be tracked. So all of this will happen through technology. I do believe that the rate of growth of technology will be far greater in the next 5 to 10 years than it has ever been before. So there is no dearth of demand. It's a question of what we see as technology and how we prepare ourselves. So I don't think that the growth rate of technology sector, a CAGR basis, should come down in the next 5 years or 10 years than the last 5 or 10 years.
Thanks very much, Chandra. Congratulations again. Thank you.
Next category of special awards, the Lifetime Achievement Award. And what makes this one truly special is that this year we honor not one but two iconic business leaders whose contribution to corporate India and to the country has been unparalleled. Interestingly, they're about 20 years apart in age, but both of them enjoy a very special friendship and a very special professional relationship as well. They have a lot in common too. They've built timeless institutions. They have served as unofficial crisis managers of various governments. And more importantly, they have set new standards for corporate India to follow. Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you the NDTV Profit Lifetime Achievement Award.
Deepak Parekh. He's credited with having transformed the landscape of India's housing finance industry. With his astute business acumen and farsightedness, he turned HDFC into a financial conglomerate that could boast of values like integrity, professionalism, and transparency. His vociferous views and ability to take hard decisions have made him the unofficial crisis consultant of the government, be it his role in the Satyam scandal or the UTI mess. His ideas and experience have helped reform policies across sectors. A master troubleshooter and a guiding force for India Inc. and policymakers. His achievements across sectors like infrastructure, housing, financial services, and capital markets are unparalleled. With a degree from Wharton, Keshav Mahindra joined Mahindra & Mahindra in 1947, when he was just 24. He went on to take over as chairman in 1963, a position he held till August 2012, when he stepped down. He is still on the board of various companies and continues to be chairman at Mahindra Eugene and the chairman of the board of governors at the Mahindra United World College. He has also served in the Prime Minister's Council of Trade and Industry from 2004 to 2010. Mr. Mahindra has championed the cause of greater corporate governance within India Inc., has often been recognized as an industry statesman and a key voice when it comes to matters pertaining to governance and responsibility in the corporate sphere. His illustrious career as chairman has seen M&M go from being a steel trading company to a maker of jeeps, to now being one of India's biggest corporate houses, with business interests in diverse sectors like aviation, IT, realty, and of course, automobiles. He is a recipient of numerous honors, including the Chevalier de l'Ordre National de la Légion d'Honneur by the French government.
Dr. Pranoy Roy interviewed the two business legends in Mumbai as Mr. Keshav Mahindra was advised against traveling to Delhi. we present to you now an excerpt from this absolutely wonderful and rare interaction.
Well, there are times in one's career as a journalist where you feel especially privileged and you love your profession. And this is one of those days. I have two of the people I admire most in Indian business, in Indian professional life. And they're both friends, colleagues, and one a mentor, Deepak Parekh. Could I say that Mr. Mahindra is a friend and a mentor of yours all your life?
Most certainly. Friend, philosopher and guide.
So all your mistakes are because of him?
Yes. And all my successes are because of him.
Yes, of course. But there's one thing which I think is very common to both of you, is ethics and integrity in a fairly tough environment. How did you hold on to that? Were there temptations to deviate?
Well, I think that if you have faith and confidence in what you believe in and stick to it without making any exceptions, it becomes a little easy. Of course, there are problems and difficulties, but I think it makes it much easier to follow some of those.
But it is a difficult road in India to build a business being completely ethical and full of integrity.
Of course, it's practically impossible. But the trouble is, it's not getting better, it's getting worse.
Right.
And that is part that bothers me the most.
Yes.
That how are we going to get out of this hole?
Yes, we're going to come to that actually, because I just wanted to looking ahead into the future, but I wanted to ask you also your experience of your 35 years working in a tough environment with integrity. A lot of people must have come to you and say, sir, this is not corrupt, this is what is called managing the environment.
Yeah, this is a favorite word.
How did you deal with it?
Fortunately for us, being a financial institution, we were never asked for political donations.
Great.
And I remember a couple of times people came and said that elections are around the corner. I said, we don't give money to any political party.
But you know, in everyday life, there's so many little deviations that people ask you to make.
No, what worries me also is the way things are going.
Right.
It's becoming practically impossible. And you know, we are in the housing industry.
Yes.
And the horrendous stories that a developer comes and tells you. I'm not saying developers are clean, but they have to play ball if they want land. They have to play ball if they want construction permits. Even after buildings are completed, to get the completion certificate, the amount of money they have to pay.
Even if they have not violated anything.
Even if they have not violated, and not in Bombay or Delhi, across the country. It has become normal, it has become a normal transaction.
I think that there is always a time when the courses change. And I think there is enough momentum. But I think we need desperately to change the political system.
Right.
Otherwise, it's a carry on. And I think that no matter which political system, they ought to have specific agendas, what they should do.
So if Dr. Manmohan Singh came here one evening and sat with you and said, just tell me 2 things that I should do, sir, what would you tell him?
Firstly, you should not have done what you did. I tell him straight to his face. And secondly, he gave an impression of not being active. You're a leader.
Right.
Whether you like it or not, you have to
take action.
Wonderful ideas, great human being, totally honest. So you can't fault him and all that. But something happened which stalled him. I don't know what.
And you say, don't make those mistakes you made and be active and take steps, right?
Yes, it doesn't matter, take steps. And I think India has a huge future.
I think you're right. There's this feeling of paralysis, right?
Yeah.
So if he came to you, Dr. Manmohan Singh, and said, and I'm sure he does actually, a couple of things, just give me 2-3 things. And forget about the elections. This is for India. What would you say?
No, I would say the biggest risk I see today, which many people don't appreciate, is a downgrade by international rating agencies.
Right, right.
We are on investment grade, and the ramifications, the consequences of a downgrade are so severe.
Downgrade means we become
junk status.
We
are so
one
severe,
step above junk.
so severe that as much as $50 billion can go out overnight.
It's a frightening prospect.
It's a frightening, but it's not been appreciated. It's been appreciated by the finance minister, but not by his colleagues. I think
I agree with you. I think it's a terrible situation. The FM has great thoughts, but I think he's paralyzed. He can't act.
So just to wrap this up, if you had to say to your protege something.
True?
Say to your young protege sitting next to you, he's a young man.
Yeah, I wish he was 10 years younger. We need many people like this.
But looking at his life and what he's done, what would you say?
I'm very proud of him, I think. And I've been his deputy chairman for 35 years. And I've enjoyed every minute of it. A great privilege.
And you think awarding him a lifetime achievement along with you?
Well, for me, it's a great honor.
It's a privilege for me.
And you, what words for your mentor and friend?
I wish he lives on and on.
You're very kind to say
Not
that.
Not at all. I think you're looking wonderful, and it's just a great privilege for me to award you a Lifetime Achievement Award. I swear this comes from my heart personally and from the whole of NDTV.
Thank you very much.
God bless you. No, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, now a very special category of award for the Inspiring Business Leader of the Year. This award goes to a business leader who has stood like a rock, not only in moments of comfort, but more importantly, at times of intense challenge. Despite turbulence in the global and domestic economy, he has gone ahead with investing and expanding, conquering businesses and geographies. He inspires us to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more. Ladies and gentlemen, an honor and a privilege to invite the chairman of the Aditya Birla Group, Kumar Mangalam Birla. All right, Mr. Birla, I'm going to start with a question that many of us have on our mind. What is the secret behind that calm, ever-present, Lord Krishna-like smile on your face, despite the turbulence that you see all around you, and you continue to go about business as usual?
So I think, if you've got a great team and all of you are working very hard, doing the right things, doing the best that you can, you've got to do the best and then forget about the rest, as they say.
All right. Can I actually get some breaking news out of you today? It will, of course, for me, make history as a journalist or a business journalist. Nobody's got it. What's the next business you're looking to acquire? Or even if you can hint at the geography, that'll be great.
Well, no new business, because I think we've got a very interesting slate of businesses which have huge growth potential almost across all of them. In terms of new geographies, we're expanding in Brazil, we're expanding in Indonesia. We're also looking at South Africa.
Well, first of all, congratulations. You know, the question I'd like to ask you, what do you think is the most important thing government should do to reduce this turbulence and uncertainty?
I think government has to be a provider of infrastructure and not be interventionist.
Aren't you being very polite? Once they actually created the turbulence, so maybe they should just stop doing it.
So I think I must say that this morning the finance minister had about 40 of us in a room, and he actually sat with each one of us and asked us about each of our projects and the issues related to each of our projects, and he took notes down himself, and he, had very perceptive questions to ask for our issues, and that's very heartening. Yes. I don't hear of a finance minister who does something like that, and so that gives one great hope. And I think that going from what we saw this morning, I think that one expects a bend in the road and positive changes to happen very soon.
I knew your father very well and was a great admirer of his, and I can tell you he'd be very, very proud of you today. But like any father or any friend of your father, I'd still like to ask you, what worries you when you go to sleep at night? Is there any major worry you have?
There's nothing about work that worries me, Pranoy. I'm just made that way because I think, like I said, after you've done everything you could, and there's nothing more that you can do, there's no point in worrying. So it's nothing about work really gets me that agitated that I can't sleep at night. It's just not worth it.
That's wonderful to hear.
In fact, I think we should ask Neeraj that. A great interview on ADTV Good Times where you said you do have one weakness, and that's your children. Neeraj, he may not accept here, but do you think some worries he does come and share with you?
Like he said, he doesn't really get agitated at all over work. I think it is the family and the children that really do worry him. But fortunately, there is really nothing to worry about the children.
You take care of that. And is she part of your calm, the big reason for your calm, composure, and of course,
you've got to be a counterfoil to someone who's very excitable. So you don't have a choice then.
Thank you, Mr. Birla, and congratulations once again. It was an honor to present this award.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we've awarded excellence in various quarters of the corporate world where business has garnered new dimensions. With this particular industry leading to a contribution of about $4.5 billion in terms of revenue contribution by 2015, why miss out on recognizing and honoring creative and unique contributions from the business of Bollywood? As you've heard the saying, you can have the best product or service to offer, but if people don't buy, then what's the point? It's worthless. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, this year's Creative Entrepreneurship Award goes to a man who took a small idea and gave it mass appeal to the point of cult by cutting through standard marketing gimmicks and over-the-top promotional charades and simply going the commonsensical way of word of mouth. I'm sure half the people in this audience have been asked this question at least once. Have you seen Wikidona yet? Ladies and gentlemen, this year's Creative Entrepreneurship Award goes to John Abraham. John, obviously,
Thank you.
what you have to do comes after this interview.
I was just getting a little worried. It started looking like a film function, so yeah.
No, but I'm going to ask you the approach that you took to Vicky Dona. Obviously, it's a journey for you from being an actor to looking at the business of Bollywood.
Right, I think one major point that we all forget in our industry is that we're in the business of creating content, and we end up making proposals. So I just went back to basics and I said, I need to create content that my target audience, my TG, my target group would enjoy. That's youngsters, depending on what socio-economic class you want to really get out at. And I chanced upon this idea about a sperm donor, and I thought it was exciting. My studio thought I was crazy, but I decided to go ahead and do it.
Dr. Roy, have you seen Vicky Dona? Dr. Ahluwalia, have you seen Vicky Dona?
Let me ask a question that a lot of people think about, given the importance of Bollywood and you're having moved from being someone who's actually been a performer with a huge fan following to now actually producing things and getting into the business side of it, what do you think is going to be the major technological change that's going to affect the industry in the next 10 years? Or is it going to be more or less what it is?
Well, I think as long as you create content, we're going to pretty much be where we are. I just went to Los Angeles recently, and I went to DreamWorks, and I wanted to see what they had to offer in terms of technology, just to answer your question. They're light years ahead of us in terms of equipment, in terms of camera, etc. It's also that our budgets are way lower for our films. We sell far more many tickets, but we sell tickets at a far lower price, which is why we don't generate that kind of income. $20 billion is probably what Hollywood generates, vis-a-vis our $4.5 billion. The other thing I went there for was to kind of borrow expertise from them in terms of screenplay, scriptwriters. And I told them that, listen, I have content that's world-class. I would like my films to reach out to a North American audience, not apologetically just to an Indian diaspora. And that's what I went there for. I met some of the international studio guys when I was scouting around for Vicky Dona. And I told them, listen, you'd be part of history, and they didn't listen to me. So
tough luck to them.
Right.
All right.
You're very well known for your wildlife support. I mean, supporting wildlife. You've helped us with tigers. You've worked on elephants. You really dedicate a lot of your life to the real thing. I'm not talking, the real wildlife. But I'd like to ask you about how Bollywood has changed. It used to be accused, maybe sometimes a little excessively, of being full of black money and underworld. It's more or less completely clean now, isn't it?
I came in at a point of time where I didn't experience any of this, and I can go on record and say I don't deal in black money. The only thing I'd like to change about Bollywood is the name. I think Bollywood is very subservient to Hollywood.
Yeah.
So I think we need to be called the Indian film industry.
Right.
And for that, we need to create content that's original, that's genuine. And even if you want to rip off something from somewhere, please pay them for it. That's the least we can do.
All right, John. Congratulations.
Thank you.
For the award. You can't go that easy. 1 second. We're going to play that track once again.
Oh no, please.
The audience demands
Okay.
it. Come on. Everybody, a round of applause for John Abraham. He's going to perform for us.
Ladies and gentlemen, time now for our final award. This is a big one. The jury spent a lot of time also looking at this. This is the award for the Business Leader of the Year. And it goes to someone whom we've long known as a visionary leader, as somebody who's one of the most articulate members of India Inc., but who in the last couple of years has really come into his own acquisitions, transformation of his businesses, and then taking his company to new heights as an Indian passenger vehicle maker, #1 now. Let's just take a look at the achievements of the Business Leader of the Year and what's been an absolutely fantastic landmark year for him. Can I call on to the stage Mr. R.K. Arora, CMD of Supertech, to give the Business Leader of the Year award to Anand Mahindra. Mr. Arora. When you came up with the slogan or the tagline of Rise for your group, were you talking about yourself or the country or an aspirational generation or all of the above?
It was for all of the above, Vikram. And what we found today, the insight that we had was that people are looking for different kinds of companies in the world. And frankly, we had this insight well before Occupy Wall Street. What we sensed was a fundamental lack of trust, an erosion of trust in the corporate world. And what we understood was that branding was no longer just about your product and service and what could be done with it, but do you trust that company? Will you buy its products and services because you believe in them? And I think that's when we decided we had to undergo a radical reinvention of ourselves. So I think we had to rise first ourselves before we went out with that sermon. But thanks to the people we have, I think we've done an admirable job of it. And I believe we're well on the way to the journey of beginning to believe in ourselves and then asking others to believe in us.
So was this a particularly landmark year? You overtake Tata Motors, you get what you said is a pat on the back from an elder brother.
It was. Ratan is one of the most admired leaders here. And frankly, I think when we passed that milestone, we didn't even know it until Ratan pointed it out. And that's the best way to recognize a milestone, when your peers and indeed the people you admire stop and recognize you. I think that was a very special moment for us, yes.
Prannoy?
Can I ask you something which I asked and comes also a follow-up from your mentor, your uncle, what he spoke about. Like him, for me, you epitomize ethics and integrity. And you're probably proud to have missed a lot of opportunities which you could have got by dispensing with those basic principles. But he said it's getting tougher and tougher to function in India today. He lived in a pretty tough time with red tape, licenses. Do you think it's tougher for you? And how do you stick to this ethic, these principles, and still grow and make us proud? How do you do that?
Prannoy, he clearly is very distressed when he sees a situation of a deteriorating model environment. But don't forget, he also was optimistic and said that if you believe in what you do and stick to your conviction, things become easier. And to say the same thing with a different story, I remember when I came back after business school in the early 80s, and the situation was even worse because you combined a poor model fabric along with the licensed Raj. You couldn't move. There was no room to maneuver for those who were ethical. And I remember I was very frustrated, and I spoke to my father-in-law, who was alive at that time, and I said, you know, why the hell did I come back here? Because we don't seem to understand the rules of the game. And he made a very simple but prescient statement. He said, Anand, don't ever violate what the legacy is of your business is. In the long run, you will have a lower cost of doing business. And he put it down into costing terminology. And he's right. Because when you don't give it, nobody asks for the bribe. And eventually, I am proud to say we have a lower cost of doing business.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mehta. Thank you.
Let me thank our sponsors, our presenting sponsors Supertech Limited, our associate sponsors Monet Ispat and Energy Limited, GSK Consumer Healthcare Limited, Xerox India Limited, Rodeo Drive Luxury Products Bangalore, and BSc IPS, and also our partners, Innovation Partner 3M India, Construction Solutions Partner JCB India Limited. We're driven by Toyota Camry, and our hospitality partner, of course, Hyatt Regency Delhi. Could I also invite all the winners to come up on stage for a photograph?